You're looking at this video because you probably got the same no bus message on your odometer and I did. And if you're unlucky like me, your car doesn't start, even if you put the key in and turn it. So I'll show you what I did to fix it in the next few slides. I've got a longer video about this problem on my site. If you want to check that out, go through all of the different things you can check. Basically, I Googled a lot of stuff, checked a lot of different things, and the only thing that was left was a TIPM. TIPM is a totally integrated power module, and you can see in the picture where it's located. So this shows you how to get it out and how to fix it. I was pleasantly surprised to see how easy it was to lift the TIPM out. You have to first disconnect the red power cables that on the left-hand picture there, it's the red plastic cover with the positive sign on it. You pop that little red cover and you can unbolt that wire, heavy power wire. And the three yellow circles indicate where you have to kind of depress these plastic tabs in. The left-hand side you can do it by hand, but the right-hand side it's kind of easier to use a screwdriver. But once you do that, you can lift the whole TIPM out, and you can see on the right-hand picture what it looks like underneath. A lot of connectors, and those connectors, some of those connectors you can see have these white brackets that lift up and down to kind of keep those connectors in place. They're quite fragile. You have to be really careful lifting those so you don't break any little plastic knobs holding those in. And there's some little red sliders on the side that you have to kind of slide up, then you can pull the whole connector out. Be careful because it looked like somebody done it on mine before, and a couple of little knobs were broken, and when I took them out I broke a couple. And I managed to fix them, but the best thing to do is just be really careful when you're taking it out so that you don't break anything. The TIPM has a plastic box-like cover. That's a left-hand side picture. And all the ID numbers of all of the relays and big fuses and little fuses are on that cover. What I recommend is for the black relays is that you scratch with a little screwdriver or a little sharp knife, scratch the number of each one of those relays. For each one of those relays, scratch the number on the relay before you take them out. That way you put exactly the same one back in where it came out. The fuses aren't such a big deal. I didn't scratch any numbers on them. The colorful fuses are like bigger fuses, quite a bit, rated for pretty high amperage. And then there's those little fuses, 25 and 5 amps, 15 amps, whatever. You pull all those out. That shows on the right-hand side. Everything's labeled, and also that nut you can see where that red power cable is connected. You pull that nut off, and then you can basically start thinking about taking the next step. So that box cover that had all the labels for all of the fuses and relays, you can snap that off. You can see it on the left-hand picture, quite easy to just snap it off without breaking anything. And then what I call the top, which is on the right-hand side, where all the fuses and relays plugged into, you need to remove that top after you remove all the fuses and relays. There are 3 plastic buttons actually holding on that top on. They were basically molded in place, so the thing wasn't meant to be taken apart by your local amateur like me. So I had to drill out those buttons, which I did very, very carefully. And so you only drill out the top part of the button without ruining the top. and that way you can proceed to the next step. Okay, so now you've basically drilled out those 3 little plastic buttons, and you use a small screwdriver, and you can pry the top off. And it's not too difficult to do, and you're not going to break anything. Just be careful. And then it just pops off, and lo and behold, on the right-hand side, you finally get to take a look at the circuit board for this TIPM. You can see I've labeled the power tang where it comes in from the left-hand side. You can see it's a pretty large piece inside that circuit board. And so the next step now is to get the circuit board out. One thing you have to keep in mind is that when you're working with circuit boards like this, you have to make sure that there's no way you're going to have static electricity on you when you start handling the board. If you're in a dry environment where you're kind of rubbing your socks on a carpet or something, and you touch a board like this, you're going to destroy the board. I mean, something will pooch in it and it won't work anymore. So you got to be really careful. If you can actually be in bare feet while you're handling a board like this on a hard floor instead of a carpet or something like that, you should be fine. So here you can see in the left-hand side picture, I removed the board, and you can see the bottom half of the board, what it looks like. And then when you pull that board out, on the right-hand side, you can see what I call the base of the TIPM box. There are 3 yellow circles. Those indicate where the plastic buttons used to be. So what I did is I cleared off any plastic, the leftover plastic that was there, and then I used a very small drill, and I drilled into those plastic posts, and then found 3 little screws in my screw collection and screwed them in there so that now I can actually use those screws to hold the circuit board in, or the top of the TIPM in, instead of those plastic buttons which I had to destroy to get the thing apart. Finally had a good look at the circuit board, and look what I found. Most of the circuit board was pretty clean, as you could tell from the previous pictures that I had up on the previous slides. But the one corner of the board here was quite dirty, and you could see an integrated circuit there with all the tiny little connectors, and you could see other components in there. And that was a lot more dirt than there should be in there. It was only in this one corner of the board, and it was close to the power tang. So I proceeded to clean that circuit board. I had some switch and contact cleaner spray around, because I work on electronic things every once in a while. So what I was careful to do is I sprayed it from the center of the board outwards. So I was spraying the dirt away from the board, not towards anything in the center. So after quite a bit of spraying and cleaning, you can see what it used to look like on the right-hand side and what it ended up looking like in the middle picture there. It's a lot cleaner. And basically, that amount of dirt that I saw in there kind of indicated that, yeah, maybe there could be a corrosion problem, because look at all that dirt. So there definitely was a corrosion problem when I took a closer look. On the left-hand picture, there's a good zoom in on an area of that corner of the board where, if you look really closely, you can see a little bit of green corrosion that shouldn't be there. And after I sprayed it, you can get a close look in the next 2 pictures. There's a capacitor that's where that green corrosion was, and then in the far right-hand picture, it zoomed in right into it. You can see a little bit of, looked like kind of like salty corrosion on that capacitor after I cleaned it, capacitor 0. And also, there was enough corrosion to actually kind of lift up the green protective layer over that copper trace So there's some damage there, but it's minimal. It's surface corrosion damage. Looked like I was able to clean it. Looked like it's going to be okay. So the next step is to buy yourself a tube of UV curing solder mask ink. It's only about $10. Before I put that on, I actually used the Q-tip dipped in a bit of acetone, stuff that your wife uses to clean fingernails, and cleaned it up really well. And then I got a little paintbrush, painted this stuff on. And you can use a bright white LED to cure this UV paint. And I also put a little bit of sunlight to make sure it was cured. So the question has to be asked is, why was the corrosion there in the first place? I mean, most of the board was clean. It was just this corner of the board. Well, if you take a look at that corner of the board, it's closer to where the power tang is. And that power tang, if you look at the left-hand side, that power tang is actually wasn't sealed well, and that green arrow indicates where the dirt came in. If you take a close look at the left-hand picture, you can kind of see there's some white dirt also on the top cover of that, or on the top of that of the TIPM. So you can see there was stuff coming into it. And if you look at the right-hand side, I've got a picture that shows a close-up where the power tang kind of comes out from inside the TIPM, and there's a gap there. There was no seal there that I could see, and that's where the dirt was coming in. I have no idea if this fix of mine is going to work. I saw corrosion there. I saw that bare copper trace. I cleaned it up. I put some of that UV paint on. But I still don't know whether this fix is going to work. But I'm kind of, cautiously confident. So I'm going to put this thing back together by putting seals in there. So you can see that picture. I got some closed cell rubber foam lying around somewhere. I cut some little pieces. I used contact cement, and I glued those in so that when the thing went back together, there wasn't going to be any dirt and moisture getting back into that TIPM anymore. So I reassembled everything, put the board back in, put the top back on the board, put those 3 little screws that I kind of fitted in place, put the fuses back in, put the numbered relays back into their spots, put the cover, snap the cover back on, and then fit it in place on the right-hand side into the engine compartment again. Plugged everything really carefully, all those connectors underneath, made sure everything was nice and solid so they don't fall out, and there you go. Was ready to go, but was it going to work? Okay, so after I reconnected the battery, I opened the door, and either there was going to be a no-bus message or there was going to be an odometer reading coming up. But neither of those came up. There was nothing on the odometer. So I waited a couple of seconds, and I thought, well, what the heck, I might as well try it. So I sat inside the car, turned the key over, and boom, it started. And then the odometer reading came up. So that was good to see. So this is how I fixed my car. It took me quite a while to get to this point. I hope this makes it a lot easier for you if you have a similar problem. Good luck and take care, and all the best.